What's up, losers? Today I'm back with some more r/fat logic shenanigans. Taking a look at a couple of funny or interesting fat acceptance posts. Sharing my opinions on them. And having a few giggles. This is episode 154 in the Fat Logic series. And I'm ready to go toe-to-toe with some fat activists. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Plain mad. I'm a size 22. And airlines should give free extra seats. People don't get how hard it is to be fat, says Tally Sharp.
Haha, wow, that's quite a headline. It's got a pun, some provocative fat activist entitlement, and an amusing little quote about how hard it is to be fat. That's just asking to be taken out of context and laughed at. They're really going after those clicks, aren't they? And fair play to them. I'm doing the same thing. After all, haha. I'm not going to go into the whole airplane seats issue again. Because it's been popping up in so many of my videos lately. That I'm sure you're all well tired of hearing about it. But I do want to respond to the claim that people don't realize how hard it is to be fat. Because, well, I'm not sure that it's true. I think that most people actually do realize that being fat brings a lot of stress and inconvenience, especially when it comes to stuff like flights. It's probably the case that having first-hand experience of being fat hammers home the point. In a way that just imagining it cannot. But either way, it's not that people don't get that being fat is difficult. It's that they respond to that difficulty, or prospective difficulty, differently to how fat activists like this woman do. For most people, fat or thin, the thought of being stuffed into an airplane seat that is way too small for them, and squishing their fellow passengers, is a reason why fatness is undesirable, and, in combination with general health and mobility concerns, a reason to aim for a healthy weight rather than an obese one. This perspective not only allows them to take their destiny into their own hands and improve their situation through their own efforts, but also doesn't require other people to prop them up financially. It's a simple and clean solution that deals with the underlying issue, while requiring as little of the people around them as possible. For fat activists, however, the solution is not for them to change. It's for everyone else to indulge them, in this case by giving them free seats, so that they can continue to eat as much as they like, and get as fat as they like, without ever having to reflect on their choices. What those choices are doing to their body, or how they're influencing the people around them. Needless to say, I find this thinking pretty immature and selfish. And it never fails to amaze me how people like this woman can make such arguments before the general public, without feeling even a little bit ashamed. I know I would, but I guess fat activists are just built different, haha. Anyway, onto the next post.
If you look around at gyms, pools, amusement parks, and other places, and don't see very many larger-bodied people, it's not because the majority of people in our culture are thin. It's because certain places are especially unwelcoming to fat people, either by how they are treated there, or because those places aren't accommodating to size diversity.
Okay, so, I have a few comments about this one. The first is just, larger-bodied people, really? Can we not just say fat people? I know it's a fairly minor complaint, but I'm not a fan of the fluffy indirect language, when we all know what we're talking about. But anyway. My next comment is that despite what this post claims, I actually do see plenty of fat people at amusement parks and pools and other places. And I used to see a decent number at the gym when I was going to. Which is hardly surprising, because as the post rightly observes, a lot of the population is fat, so it's basically inevitable that there are going to be fat people out and about in public. I honestly don't know what to make of the suggestion that fat people are a rarity in the settings that the post identifies. I guess they just have a different standard for what qualifies as fat. Where anyone who isn't so fat that they struggle to get out of bed can be reasonably described as thin. And if that's really what's going on, what can I say? I don't agree. I also don't agree with the claim that the relative lack of super obese people at gyms and pools is a result of fat people being mistreated, or the facilities not being inclusive enough. Sure, there might be people who make rude comments here and there, and maybe some places could be made more accessible. But ultimately, the main reason why extremely fat people don't go to the gym as much as thin people is because they don't, and often can't, exercise. It's not because thin people chase out fat gym goers with torches and pitchforks, or because the benches are too small. It's because these people don't want to exercise, or at the very least, aren't willing to make it a priority. And as for pools, what's inaccessible about a pool? Exactly. You just jump in the water, haha. As far as rude comments go, I'm sure that some people are assholes to fat people at the pool. And that's horrible, but realistically, a lot of these people are just insecure about showing their bodies in public, regardless of what others do or do not say about them. So to put all of the responsibility back onto thin people seems pretty unfair to me. Like, at what point are fat people expected to be responsible for their own decisions? It's getting ridiculous. And lastly, I'm really not a fan of the term size diversity. Like, let's not equate obesity, a dangerous and entirely avoidable medical condition, to natural and positive forms of human diversity. Obese people deserve to be treated with kindness and respect. I would never wish to undermine that. But we don't need to delude ourselves about what obesity is, and the damage that it causes. To do that, much less glorify it as some new frontier of social progress. It's unhelpful to fat people, most of whom would much prefer to lose weight than embrace fatness. And it makes a mockery of genuinely important movements for diversity. So give it a rest.
Disordered behavior red flags. Basing what you eat on whether you exercise today. Using your weight to guide how you eat. Avoiding dips/dressings. Bringing your own food to social events. Only eating if someone else is also eating. Healthifying everything you make.
Oh wow, is there anything that isn't disordered? I mean seriously, it seems like these people would call the cops on you for ordering a salad or snacking on an apple. It's bizarre. If people are comfortable doing the things identified in this post, and they help them to manage their weight, who are you to slap the label of disordered on that? Not everyone is going to do things the same way you do. But that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. And for you to use disordered eating as a cudgel against any dietary habits that you personally find unappealing does a disservice to people with genuinely harmful and disordered behaviors, who need to be able to identify them as such and be taken seriously. Which is not going to happen if disordered eating just becomes another goofy fat acceptance buzzword. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that any of these habits cannot be part of a more broadly disordered relationship with food. People should be able to enjoy food too, and not every meal needs to be healthified, but to declare that each individual habit is a red flag, in the absence of any further information about how the person in question approaches eating, or feels about food more generally, is laughably alarmist and overly simplistic. If it's not causing them stress, screwing with their life, or making them lose a dangerous amount of weight, it's not disordered, it's just different, and your fear-mongering isn't doing anyone any good. Let's be real though, these people must know, on some level, that their talk of disordered eating is hyperbolic baloney. They just don't care, because they find the prospect of other people making active, healthy decisions about their own diet and lifestyle, where they have repeatedly failed to so confronting and upsetting, that they feel justified in saying whatever they think they have to make it go away, regardless of how inaccurate it is, and how unhelpful it is for all involved. Anything to avoid acknowledging that there is, in fact, another way, and that the reason they're fat is because they refuse to show even a smidgen of self-control. Sighs. How sad. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you had a nice time reading through these posts with me, and that my commentary offered some insight or entertainment. What do you think? Should fat people be given free extra seats on planes? Because no one understands how hard it is being fat. What should we do to get more fat people going to pools, gyms, and amusement parks? Is exercising any degree of control over your own eating, in light of concerns around your weight disordered? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll sneak into your house in the dead of night, steal all of your dips and dressings, and healthify all of your food. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.